The triumph of the Great Society, right? The tragedy of Vietnam. But on our business, on the LBJ cards, as you will see, on our book cards, there's a third T that we put in, and it was a word that my uncle used. He says when he was exiled, when he fled the United States for 4 years because of this, he was told, Don, leave the country because your life is in danger. You know what? He says, I won't come back. I won't come back until the tyranny is eliminated. Triumph, tragedy, and tyranny. Could this also be a part of LBJ's legacy? We'll have to decide. I can remember when we met Don Reynolds. We took a trip to Canada when I was 12 or 13 years old, and we met him in Windsor, right? Because Windsor is across from Detroit. He didn't want to come into the States again. I'm sorry I get emotional about this. But I was with Don Reynolds and my uncle, and we were staring across the river from his hotel. And he looked across the river to the skyscrapers in Detroit, shook his head, and said, no, I can't go back. This is the United States of America, for heaven's sake. Why would a man be treated like this? Well, our story, and I hope you will take a look at it, but we have some copies and some information at the table there. I hope that this book will capture part of our struggle. It's a memoir. It's part of Senate documents. It's a part of Dallas and the assassination. We were swept and thrown into history. And I hope that you will take a look at it and make your own judgments about my uncle and the legacy of LBJ and what happened here. We are not directly involved here in the assassination. And people could say that here's the assassination road, okay? And here's the corruption road of Don Reynolds. Well, but wait a minute, they begin to merge together. And then they diverge a little bit, and then they merge again. So it's not direct, it's an interesting story. But the books are out, they're quote unquote hot off the press, and we hope to have another, a second or a third edition on this. And I want to thank you very much for giving me the time and the opportunity to tell our story. 61 years later, we felt we had to get the family secrets out of the family. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And any questions that you would have, I'd be glad. Yes, sir.
Bob, can you be specific about the information your uncle had on LBJ that he had given to them?
Yeah, there is, I believe, I'm going to put in a plug for Clark Mouwenhoff, all right? He's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. And in his book, Despoilers of Democracy, he goes into a full chapter on my uncle, testimony during disaster. Now, again, I don't want to say that Robert Caro, who is esteemed in his own right, he said he discovered my uncle's testimony at that time, and he wrote about it. The Atlantic has an interesting article about Don Reynolds. But again, the first journalist, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist who wrote about that was Clark Mouwenhoff. And it tells us a lot about the friends that we keep. And Don Reynolds felt that he could elevate himself by associating with a man named Bobby Baker. Now, why did he associate with Bobby Baker once? Well, there's a common. Bobby Baker and my uncle came from South Carolina. Both of them came from South Carolina. Bobby was from the hill country up north, and my uncle was from the poor swamplands, Lamar South. But they got together. And during the 50s, my uncle he's just an ordinary guy. Yeah, in a way he was, but I mean, I believed he had applied at West Point and been accepted. I don't know if he continued on at West Point. Purportedly, he had blown the lid off all of the insurance exams in that one. He scored the highest exam ever in the history of that particular organization. So I think he had something on the ball. But when it tells a lot about the people you associate with. And Bobby Baker was close to LBJ, and then Bobby said, "Well, you know, let's get you and make you're insured with LBJ." So my uncle wrote an insurance policy, life insurance policy on Lyndon Johnson. Was that all? Well, there was something that came with it, because sometime later, Bobby said that it would be good. This was not directly communicated by LBJ. It would be good that if you gave the senator a stereo set and put some advertising time on his Texas station. Oh, and also there was a third thing. My uncle insured the casualty insurance, I believe, on the D.C. Stadium, and that it might be helpful if Don Reynolds could support the 1960 Democratic campaign coffers. So there was an overpayment made to insure the D.C. Stadium by $30,000. Now, $30,000 today would be what, about $250,000 or something like that? By a factor of 10. So then you multiply out all the favors that were given, and my uncle resisted it because it's the insurance regulations prohibit kickbacks on insurance, but Bobby Baker insisted, and so my uncle complied. Then when all the assassination came through, he was faced with an issue whether he goes forward with it and tells the truth, or whether he wishes to tone it down, and he wanted to tell the truth. By the way, again, I don't mean to paint Don Reynolds as some kind of saint. He was not. But Bobby Baker said if these revelations would potentially put LBJ in huge trouble. Question?
Bob, what about the anecdote that I've read somewhere, I can't document
Go
it,
ahead.
about Don Reynolds seeing a suitcase full of money that was going to be given to Lyndon Johnson as a kickback? Tell us if there's any credibility to that story.
Yeah, that my uncle had seen a suitcase full of money that he purportedly had been directed, and I believe this was part of the payoff on the D.C. Stadium. I'd have to recheck that, but that is true. That particular sentence I had seen myself. I have two people from my family, two cousins from my family that I can rely on reasonably, right? And the rest, as far as I know, from our family have passed away. So I'm somewhat limited. Like I say, that we have the archives, and I can check and recheck, and then we have two people from our family who can say, yes, verify this, or to the best of our knowledge, yes, that would be true. Go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to plug the book, but this is a good question. But I don't mean to plug the book, but I get excited about this because when I read Greg Smith's final chapter in the book about his work to trying to get this helps educate us about making these requests into the government. In answer to your question, we have received 47 pages of documents which are extraneous. It's related to Mortgage Guaranty Insurance Corporation of Milwaukee, which evidently, purportedly, my uncle had some contact with. And when Greg got it, he says, well, fine, Bob, I'll send it on to you, but there's nothing here about the assassination or Don B. Reynolds. So in close to 4 years, we initiated this in January of 2021. In close to 4 years,